Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure having you for today's program Viewpoint on DBS Television, and we are into the studios of Douala, the economic capital of Cameroon. We have our guest again for today's edition, and it is the same panel of yesterday. That is Mr. Derek Ngalim. He is a teacher, and Mange Venashus, your regular panel, a journalist. Good evening to you, Mr. Ngalim. Derek, and thank you very much for being part of us again.
Good evening, Vanessa, and thanks for honoring me today again.
Mange Venashus, so good evening to you as well.
Good evening, Vanessa, and good evening to our viewers at home.
In few seconds, let us get a transition, and we will be right back for the first part of Viewpoint. It has to do with the yes or no question, and question number one this morning goes thus: reconstruction of the northwest and southwest regions and the ongoing war, is it realistic? I begin with you, Sir Derek. Yes or no?
All right, I would say no, outrightly.
No. Mange Venashus?
No, Vanessa, it is not.
Question number two: is there anything the population can do to stop the war in the crisis region? We are talking here of the northwest and the southwest regions. So, Derek, yes or no?
A no.
A no.
Yep.
There is nothing the population can do. Mange Venashus?
Yes, Vanessa, I think that they have their own contribution. Yes, they have something to do.
So it's yes. Question number three: Limbe Deep Sea Port is a political compensation and not a developmental project. Mange Venashus, your take on that, yes or no?
Yes, Vanessa, it is.
So, Derek?
None of the above.
None of the above. That's a no. And our last question for today: fighting COVID-19, is contact tracing efficient in Cameroon? Mange Venashus?
No, Vanessa, it is not.
It is not. And to you, Sir Derek?
It is not either.
It is not. Thank you very much for your response this morning. Stay tuned for the debate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Viewpoint on DBS Television. The first question we asked whether the reconstruction of the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon and the ongoing war is realistic. Sir Galim, you said no, it is not realistic. What makes you think that it will not be able, or the government will not be able to reconstruct back these two regions?
Looking at the present context we are talking about with the barbaric war that is going on, I would say outrightly that thinking reconstruction could take place within this context is like putting the cart before the horse. We know the fact that the cart can never pull the horse. It's the other way around. And I would say lying won't help us in any way. Why do I say this? We are dealing with a political group which supposedly was adapted for a context that would say the dark ages, where Cameroonians were still in darkness, and they believed they could still lie to everyone and it will come to be a success. And the procedure is not rightly followed. Why? Reconstruction is only possible in a peaceful environment, right?
All right.
And my recommendation would be, first, let us trace the root of the conflict.
The root cause of the conflict.
Yes. Why are we fighting? The Latin man would make a statement, sanatio in radice, that is healing from the roots. But if we don't do that, we will never be able to get to the bottom of this conflict, not to even talk of a resolution, right?
Reconstruction.
Yes, or reconstruction. Yeah, and therefore I would say our government should not confuse the trigger for the real cause of the situation. Because you can just say, okay, the teachers went on strike, the lawyers went on strike, and therefore, if we have addressed a few things on paper, things are all right, and therefore a reconstruction is announced.
It's announced.
Yes, it cannot work that way. And I would say they should take us back to the roots of the problem. No matter how horrible they may seem, no matter how unacceptable they may seem to them. But if we don't address them, we will never come off the table with a solution to what we are discussing here. And with the war, I bet you, reconstruction cannot be possible.
Mangevenashus, you are also of the fact that reconstructing these regions cannot be possible, given that the crisis has been going on for over 4 years now.
Yes, Vanessa, when we talk of reconstructing the northwest and the southwest region, we are looking at it from the physical aspect of the word or the term. But reconstruction does not only end in building houses and schools, hospitals that were destroyed. You know, in every post-war environment, situation, country, there is always a psychological aspect of the war that remains with the people. You cannot tell me that we are trying to reconstruct the northwest and the southwest region without psychologically reconstructing these people. Because if we don't reconstruct the population psychologically, we would construct the buildings, the infrastructure, and then find ourselves going back again to where we were from the beginning. It is best we first talk about building this positive spirit in the population to know that your lives are coming back into normal. Vanessa, there are so many people from this part of the country, these two regions of the country, that are out of the country, that are out of their homeland, that are out of the regions because of the crisis. It would be difficult for us just to say that they have reconstructed their village, go back to the village. People are still carrying the nightmare. There are so many of them who witnessed the killing of their loved ones, physically. They were there directly, live, seeing them. Those images will never fade from their mind. It is a common thing in the northwest and in the southwest region that you just get up in the morning and you meet a corpse. Maybe, decomposing, you meet a corpse, shattered, you meet a corpse that has been...
a part of a human body.
Yes, just any littered on the street. That has been very common. So we need to wipe these kind of images from their mind first and then ask them to go back to their villages. In that case, we would be talking of reconstruction. That aside, we are talking of reconstruction like Mr. Angalime is saying. The war is still going on. If we are reconstructing, it means they were destroyed. And if they were destroyed and we are reconstructing and the destruction is still going on, then we are doing nothing. Government is instead, because I read somewhere they were talking of 1.8 billion francs CFA that the government of Cameroon is partnering with the UNDP, that's the United Nations Development Project, to reconstruct these two regions. When we take this money and we launch such a project, in this present situation where we are, I think that would be a misplaced priority. The priority would have been to call for ceasefire. Let the population know that they can live in their villages. Let the population know that you can sleep and sleep. Those who really live in that region, they will tell you that you don't sleep. Because at any time, you can get the exchange of guns at any moment, and you just have to start running. That is why living in the bush is becoming part of them. So we need to stop the war and then rebuild, give the people confidence, rebuild, work on their psychology, and then talk about reconstructing the facilities. If they were the infrastructure, if they were able to be living in the bushes, tell them now to go back to their various homes. When you know that this is my house, even if it was destroyed by fire, you can go there and the government then start assisting.
If they are at peace.
Correct. They are already living there and start assisting them. With a quiet mind, you see that they have a positive impact. It will have a positive impact in their life. But just telling them that they are already reconstructing, whereas they are still getting echoes, they are still getting gunshots almost every day, it is practically impossible. Vanessa, it is not realistic.
Just, we're talking of Sunday where the mayor of Mamfe was brought down by alleged separatist fighters.
If the mayor of Mamfe was brought down by separatist fighters, that is a mayor who is supposed to have some kind of protection than a simple me and you. Then how would you tell a simple citizen to go back to Mamfe? How would he live there? A citizen who was living in Mamfe, if the mayor is killed, it means he or she should also run away. So, and it is the same thing, the one newspaper said this morning, I think it was like Gideon newspaper, they were talking of traditional rulers and fonds and chiefs who have refused to go back to their various chiefdoms and fondoms because of what is happening there.
What is happening?
We are reconstructing these villages. Who would live there? when the people know that they are not secured.
When the leaders themselves
are living away, majority of the mayors that were elected in these two regions, they are not living in their municipalities. They are out of their municipalities. So it is high time we bring life back to normal, encourage the people to go back to their villages, and then once their psychology has been worked on, we can then launch the construction of this infrastructure, schools, houses, and the other ones. But if we have to start building the houses, like Mr. Ngalim said, we are putting the cart before the horse.
Mr. Ngalim, on our second question, you are totally of the fact that the population has no part to play in order to resolve this crisis in these regions.
That is my stance, and I stick to it. Why? Because on either side, the populations are victimized. They become the victims. They say in English, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. If the grass, our populations we're talking about here, if the grass happens to be tall enough as to protect the Amber Boys or the separatist fighters against the regular military, they are in trouble with the regular military. Because once they cannot get the separatist fighters, they come for the populations. And the loss of life, as far as the population is concerned, you will agree with me, is so big that we cannot begin to compromise it. And if on the other way, the populations, they play on protecting the military and exposing the separatist fighters, they are in trouble with the separatist fighters because they are attacked as traitors, right? They say you give a dog a bad name and you kill it. So the populations have found themselves in such a position where it's like finding yourself between the devil and the deep blue sea. Either way, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
It's going to need some superpower, some supernatural force to bring you out of that context. Some of the members in the population, they suffer vicariously, innocently, without knowing why they have to be victims at that point. But you will bear with me that there are equally some who consciously take it upon themselves like a job, maybe because of love for money or something, and they find themselves victims of their own doing. It's but normal to you if the separatist fighters discover that you are in some sort of communication with the regular military. You'll bear with me, you fasten your journey to the underworld. That is their mode of functioning. So what is best for the population as at now when we are talking is when you don't want to be a victim, since if you stay at home, you either fall for the military or for the separatist fighters. But it is your own life that is in danger. So the populations believe that the best way to protect yourself is to take to the bushes.
So what do you suggest them at this particular moment to do?
It's a very difficult situation for the population, right? Because whatever recommendation you give to them, they will tell you there are our lives that are on the line. And the truth is, when the military arrives, if the separatist fighters are not there, the populations are in for a lot of trouble.
All right. Thank you very much for your viewpoint, Sir Derek. Mangavenashus, when this crisis started, we saw that NGOs reacted, the international scene reacted. Even here in Cameroon, Cameroonians were talking in the different regions that there is a need for this crisis to come to an end. And do we think that the population has no part to play in order to end this crisis? You rather said the population has a part to play.
Yes, Vanessa. When I say the population has a part to play here, what I mean here is, at one point when I look at the way the government is reacting to this crisis, I say the population, the Anglophone, or the word Anglophone is as ambiguous as it is, the population of the population of the English-speaking regions, yes, of the country, they give a wrong signal to the government. We have our elites who tell the government that the situation on the ground is under control. And if it is under control, why are we solving a problem that's under control? Elections, we have had elections here. People were voted. Who voted them? Do you say that people left from here, from the other side of the country, went over to the northwest and southwest regions and voted? At least they give the impression to the world that the situation is good, it's normal. That is why some of our elites keep telling the Yaoundé regime that it is fine, there is no problem. And if it is no problem, then there is no need. The situation is bad in as much as every son and daughter of the northwest and the southwest region would tell the president of the Republic of Cameroon that life in that part of the country is unbearable.
But Mange Venashus, the population have been talking.
Vanessa, the population cannot
Maybe
stand.
They never had the opportunity.
The population
to stand
cannot
before.
stand and talk. There is always somebody who is like a spokesperson of the population, somebody who is like a frontliner, and most of these frontliners are our elite. Most of these our elites are politicians. They don't say anything.
So they give false reports.
They give a complete opposite report of the reality. That is why they keep telling the government that when you see Anglophones saying that the situation is under control, what are we saying? When we have the governors saying that calm is returning in the northwest and southwest region, but life is going on normally. We have that on interviews where they say that life has returned to normal, as if the whole regions were streamed down to the regional headquarters. Because if life is normal upstation in Bamenda, the northwest region is fine. If life is normal in Boya, the southwest region is fine. That is why I always say that if the population were able to stand up and say the truth, tell the government the situation they are living, I don't think that there is any government that would like to see their population suffering. We are giving the government a wrong information, and a wrong question leads to a wrong answer. So when we give them wrong signals, they will have to react wrongly. Let the citizens of the northwest and southwest regions, let the government know. Let the government know. Of recent, we had elections. Now, there are plans that the regional elections would have been conducted, if not of the COVID-19, or would have been announced. We don't know when. Okay, let's say they are approaching. Let the population use this period and say that we cannot live here to vote. Don't allow the elites to deceive you because of their political ambitions, because of their gains, their selfish, egoistic, interest that they have. Yes, and then give the wrong information to the government, and you keep suffering. Because what happens is, once they do like that, they leave and they go over to Yaoundé, they go over to Douala, they go over, and they continue their life while you live in the bushes. So the population has something to do. Now they can tell the government what is happening, the real situation on the ground, and I think the government will come to their aid, Vanessa.
All right. I remain with you, Mange Venashus, where you think that the Limbe Deep Sea Port is a political compensation rather than a developmental project.
A political compensation, yes, Vanessa. I am of the opinion that the Limbe Deep Sea Port is not necessarily a developmental project, but a political compensation. Why do I say political compensation? So? The reality on the ground push every other thinking human being to conclude that this way. When the presidential decree was signed last week, over the weekend, political elites, because we have some elites. Anyway, when we say elites, all of them are politicians, because elites now is just a politician. The elites of the southwest regions, traditional rulers, they came out marching. These elites who were marching are politicians, thanking the head of state for what? For giving Limbe, the city of Limbe, a deep seaport. I tend to ask myself, when the head of state of a country decides to carry out a developmental project, appreciate him. But when you come out in such mass movement, when the head of state sign other decrees, do they march on the streets to thank the head of state? Why did they have to march on the street? And then, did you remember when the announcement was made? It was during campaign rallies. That is when it was announced. Why did they not come after? So it is. The head of state is living to his campaign promises. He promised the deep sea port. Now he has reorientated. He has organized the functioning reorganized the functioning of the Limbe deep sea port, because he promised it as a political campaign. If it were just the head of state, it was out of politics. The head of state decided that we are going to build a deep sea port in Limbe because it has the advantages for Cameroon. Why should people not march in the north that there is a deep sea port in Limbe? Why should people not march in Yaoundé that there's a deep sea port in Limbe? Why is it the elites of Limbe, of Fako division, marching? Yes, because they should have also marched in Bakassi. That's still the Southwest region. So the problem was they want to show to the world that our party did it, our party promised it, we have brought it. So I think that it is a political compensation. They are compensating them for giving the ruling party the victory they had, rather than developmental project, Vanessa.
Thank you very much for your viewpoint, Manga Venatius. Mr. Galim, brother, you think that it is a developmental project rather than a political compensation?
I rather said none of the above. Reasons best known to us all.
Your viewpoint then?
Yes, my viewpoint. It's all a magic wand that our political leaders have used from the ages, right? It's all false promises. The aim here is to see if they could pacify the separatist fighters or appease the anger of the masses. I hope it will not be as developmental or as compensational as the Bamenda Industrial Zone that was announced in 2017. And up till date, you will bear with me. No such a thing exists apart from on the pages, right? And when you look at it all together, I will tell you it is unrealistic. The aim here, you and I know it. They don't have any concern as far as these regions are concerned. When the one in Kribi was announced, a lot of work was mobilized, right? But what is happening here is just an attempt to see whether they could pacify or appease the masses and see to it that the ongoing war is brought to an end. Because as far as we are talking, we can stand and talk here for the next 1 year. You will not see any work going on there. God should give us long life, and you will come to conclude my statement today.
All right, let us take our last question for today. We are asking whether the fight of COVID-19, contact tracing in Cameroon, we are asking whether it is effective, given that the numbers keep rising every day.
The numbers are rising every day. I remember yesterday we said we are faced in a serious difficulty of even identifying the cases, right? We don't have what it takes to identify the cases. And even if the cases were identified, how do you trace back to maybe the quarters or to the neighborhoods to find out where these people are from? And even if you reach there, how do you determine those they came in contact with? Our culture is so much buried in this Jangi system and whatsoever stuff, right? Before you got to identify the patient, how are you going to manage to know the number of persons they have come in contact with all the Jangis, the tontines that are going on in our neighborhoods? And even if that were the case, our town is not as clearly mapped out as in the developed world, right? Where experts could be able to trace and identify the possible streets and everything as they are supposed to be numbered. But you will bear with me, if somebody gives you directives here in Cameroon, you will give up. You will not even begin your journey. So because of that, I would state clearly that contact tracing is such an impossible situation with us here.
Manga Venatius, you support Derek's fact that in Cameroon there is no effective means of contact tracing.
Yeah, contact tracing in Cameroon is not effective, not efficient. It's not a situation for Cameroon only, but an African situation. Remember, with the outbreak of COVID-19, the government gave out rules, measures that we should adopt so as to curb the spread of the virus. But what is happening is, it's like Cameroonians decided to ignore, wave them aside, and continue with their life. Vanessa, I imagine a man who is diagnosed of COVID-19. You know, we go back to the quarter. He went to the market yesterday. Would we be able to trace all those the man met with in the market? Because it is so vast that it becomes inefficient, and perhaps at times I say it is impossible to trace it. In developed world, those who go there, they will tell you that people hardly visit. They will tell you that people suffer from this idea of being lonely, because you are either to your work, to your job site, and you come back to your house, you don't visit your neighbor.
And there's no gathering.
And there are no gatherings. That's why they when they come here, they almost stay in nightclubs, and they look for the least occasion to distract themselves with. But with us here, to stay for 30 minutes without talking to your neighbor, crossing to your neighbor's house, it is impossible. You just find yourself mingling in the quarters, and to trace it, it will be impossible to find out. I met with A met with B met with C. That before they start looking with the case that they were tracing, how are we going to get? Because that's how those people, it is ramifying and going into the quarter. So the idea of contact tracing is an African concept. In some developed countries, they are using something like robots and drones to trace people. But then there are even apps that have been developed on telephones to trace, to see how they've been moving. But then it is yet not easy because, Vanessa, this is a situation that the world is faced with. Cameroon is part of it. It is not easy to trace these cases of COVID-19 that we trace in our, that we identify. Yes, in our quarters, Vanessa.
So your recommendation concerning this?
It is just simple that people just need to know that we have to, if we are to survive, then if we are to help the government fight the spread of the virus, we just need to respect the barrier measures that have been put in place, respect them, avoid gathering. Vanessa, when they say avoid gathering, you see Cameroonians still organize wake keepings, they still organize funeral masses, and these are crowd pulling events, and they are still there. People are still there, and people behave as if nothing is happening. Go to the market, nothing is happening. So what we just need to say is, if we are to respect these barrier measures, like I always say, remember that you have the responsibility to fight the spread of this virus as an individual. It is not a government issue, it's not a country issue. It is your individual responsibility to curb the spread of the virus. If I say so, you say so, he says so, she says so, I think we would be able to at least slow down the rate at which the virus is spreading in Cameroon, Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Mangavina Shoes, for your viewpoint tonight.
Thank you, Vanessa. The pleasure is mine.
Mr. Galim Derrick, it has been a pleasure having you too.
My pleasure too.
Ladies and gentlemen, the fight of COVID-19 continues on DBS television through information and through education. So stay tuned and keep on watching our programs. Until we meet again, do take care and stay blessed. Bye-bye.